Hello everyone, in today's video I'll show you how to get the author medal, champion medal, and maybe even world record on the summer 2023 track 07. In this video I'll go into in-depth analysis of the current world record on the track so you have a better understanding on what he does, so you can improve yourself on the game and improve your times, as well to have a better understanding of mechanics in the game. So 07 is a map I would define as sideways 08 on dirt. This map is very reliant on just maintaining grip throughout the entirety of the track. And if you remember from the early episodes, is that you always need to just have one wheel touching the ground or touching the road or whatever to maintain the grip. This map is the perfect example for that. And also it's like a very good way how to practice having grip control on dirt surfaces as well, because it's so hilly. There's a lot of like small nuances you need to do just to maintain the grip going throughout the entirety of the map. On top of that, there's a lot of like small tricksters, optimizations regarding the skid mark widths and things like that. So the world record here is actually done by Zodiark, who is, I believe, the very first North American player we have in this series. So Zodiark has been one of the campaign players from North America. It's actually North America, sadly, let's just say like that. Yes, they do have Core Junior and everything like that, but the whole region is not that competitively evolved, and there's way more people who play casual stuff like campaign or cover the days or whatever, and there's decent amount of players who do hunt the campaigns, but not that many who engage in competitive play, sadly. There are some like community events and stuff like that we see some campaign players here and there, but would love to see that some of these guys taking part in competitive as well in the future. Anyway, Zodiark is one of the players who has a pretty solid time attack core base, but his consistency is not up there near competitive level. So he's one of those, let's just say, cursed time attack players. We'll see how this run goes, because usually time attack, you just need to have that solid peak. It doesn't really matter how your consistency is like, so if people just want to force send everything, and this is definitely a good map to kind of describe that, because it's just full send everywhere, and try to rely as much as you can on visual cues, and we'll see how it goes kind of thing. Alright, so early on, as mentioned before, there's so many bumps and everything like that throughout the whole track, and the whole map basically relies on maintaining grip throughout every single section and having solid setup points to maintain as much momentum as you can while setting yourself up for the upcoming section. So those are going to be kind of main things we're going to be looking at through this replay as well, so you have something to keep in mind when you play through the map yourself, especially in matchmaking, because this is one of the maps you can potentially get in matchmaking at any rank if you queue up those games. Alright, so the very start has a very similar case as it was on the previous map. Since we're starting on a slidey surface, which is dirt, you want to have a partial steering early on. You can do tapping on dirt early on to go through, but it's a tiny bit better due to sideways acceleration to have a partial steer or an action key being used early on. So you just obviously want to just take a full inside as much as you can. So one thing to mention, since this whole part is like to just say dirt roadblocks, they have like this bit like ball-like movement, and usually you want to really avoid touching the green ones because it really forces you, like look at how sharp this part is, so that's why you, or most of the time, avoid it or sometimes use it to your advantage. So basically at the very start, he just takes as much inside as a line as he can while trying to keep the 100% grip, especially at low speeds. Right here, he does a small wiggle right here to increase his speed a bit more, but at the same time, he exits the wiggle in a way that he uses the ramp from here that it forces a low jump right here, so you can immediately get grip while still going on the downhill. Alright, this is an interesting setup point right here. So he starts steering early on, and he uses actually this sharp incline, so it forces the car down afterwards so you can get to keep the grip for the next parts. This is one of the parts that makes this map so unique. So he uses this part right here, so the car immediately bounces down like this, like for a very small moment, and it keeps the grip. So he steers early on but tries to do the exits so the skid marks are as close as he can while setting himself up for the next turn. So right here, since there's a very unique turn combination and it's basically a long stretched diagonal right here, so he wants to oversteer it early on to correct himself for this part, then close himself out tight right here. As there is the sideways incline change block right here, he wants to stay in the middle because being way too much left right here or being too much on the side will cause airtime, and as obviously mentioned, this is a map where you want to keep a grip as much as you can. So being back on the inside while here, as there's a downhill coming afterwards here, you want to oversteer it but while aiming to the left, you still be on the very center of this part. And right here, trying to keep the skid marks as well as close enough, because it will be the main thing that will determine how much speed you have for every single part. The faster you are on this map, the harder it will become. And the more faster you are, the earlier you have to create your setup points on this map. Alright, right here on the downhill, he goes a bit to the side, tries to keep the skid mark straight. He gets a small bump, but nothing too crazy. He still keeps the grip going on. So we see the turn is like just right here, but he already starts to initiate a steering movement right here. So what's crazy here with this specific line that he takes in the center point, since he starts to oversteer right here, it actually allows the car to transition with a very minimum airtime, so he can set himself up for the next turn while having a solid momentum right here. So he steers early on, because with this specific point, very similar as on a diagonal, let's say we have a hill, and if you take it diagonally, you will have a bit more grippier line, and that's kind of one of the same ideas right here. So he wants to go fully straight and aim for the middle while oversteering right here. But he wants to oversteer at the very end, because there's a very sharp uphill with not much room to have a correct line that doesn't throw you out of the map, because he has so much speed coming in, so he has to oversteer this part to have a solid entry for the next point. So right here, taking the very inside, because as mentioned, there's these, let's just say these, how could I say, the side balls on the side that's gonna completely throw you off the map. So you want to stay center at this point, because that will allow the best moments to keep the grip. And since it's relatively straight, he still goes for wiggles to build a bit more momentum right here. So he still ends off the wiggles in a way that he starts the steering movement way before the turn starts. And in this part, you actually just want to aim for the very center for the rest of the map, because going too much on the side wheels will completely throw you up and will cause the loss of grip. So you want to just stay on the very center, even if it makes it you oversteering for certain parts. But keep in mind, start steering movements way before the turn starts, because that will be the main key parts on how to take these, especially end parts of the map. However, I would say the hardest parts are these parts right here, because the rest of this part is very straightforward. Do the early on steering, keeping on the center. Okay, this part is one of the more challenging parts at the end. After you get this, it's smooth sailing basically. So right here, this is one of the hardest parts in the map. So he uses the sideways bump right here that will kind of give a tiny bit more grip, but will set up a very nice oversteer point for this turn, because that will give the best skid marks for the exit. Because you see as he smoothly closes out the skid marks right here, like that. And as you see, he still keeps the grip. As you said, just one wheel needs to be touching, and he always has that going for the rest of the track basically. So right here, he uses the sides to set up a better entry point for here, because there's a very sharp, like this pole, like this very weird turn basically. So he uses this sideways, closes out the skid marks to start to build up more speed for the end. Right here, since he tries to use as much space as he can, he actually gets as much as he can to the side while still keeping the two wheels grip. And actually his two wheels are gripped in a point where it gently gives a bit more speed. He does a bit of wiggle to entry. So on this part, you want to be as much as you can on the very side, because obviously there's going to be a very sharp jump right here. And if you are basically right here, you're going to lose all of your grip and it will just cause airtime here. So right here, so one of the reasons why he actually corrects himself is to aim for part right here on the side. Not on the green, but very side. And here is just keeping the skid marks as close as he can, reducing a bit of travel distance right here. Similar cases on the uphill that went on the other side. You just want to stay on the center, keep the skid marks close as you can. And he does a small oversteer right here at the end to have as much momentum to end off the map. Alright, to summarize, having partial steer movement to have 100% grip on low speeds on the dirt. Here does a small wiggle while trying to get a small low jump here early on. Gets an early steer right here while aiming to the green parts, and immediately counter steering to have the best setup point and causing the side here to force insta grip afterwards. Right here, early steering to the side, keeping skid marks close, oversteering early on to be on the center right here. Try to skid marks as close as he can while early steering right here to keep the grip. Right here, stay on the very center, small wiggles on the uphill, early steering to the side, aiming on the center right here. Again, early steering before the turn happens. Here using the sides to have a better setup point here, closing the skid marks as much as he can. Here aiming to the side, keeping skid marks close, reducing travel distance, small oversteer so he can make the end. And that will be 07. 07 is one of the more technical maps to do in terms of like just holding accelerate and steering. it's definitely one of the more challenging maps that just use this kind of input method, because you don't touch the brake at all for this. Overall, it's one of the more rewarding maps in the campaign to do it properly. It is very hard to do consistently in rounds, but for time attack, if you just want to have a full send map, this is going to be the map for you in that sense. Also, to have a better understanding of how grips work, how to regrip things, is also a good map to kind of get your understanding of that and to build up your personal experience. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope that you find something informative. Hope you also learned something about Trackmania's mechanics. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you for watching and see you later. Bye bye.